All right, Steve Dace joining us, Michigan Podcast. You got to join him right there on YouTube in particular, also the audio platforms of Stitcher and iTunes as well. And also, let's kick this around the Big Ten as well, because Mike Riley is basically out the door at Nebraska. I don't know what your thoughts are concerning his short tenure after coming off the heels of a Bo Pelini who was certainly not popular as a person, but on the sideline won his 9 or 10 games, although the 2 or 3 losses were usually in resounding fashion to the likes of a Wisconsin, and who could possibly take over that program that might be one of the more difficult jobs in America in regards to meeting the old standard expectations.
Well, I do and I've done this for the last several years. I do a weekly podcast with a friend of mine who started the website Hawkeye Nation, which is sort of the big Iowa fan site. And our podcast, we tape it on Sunday nights. And I think that was the day or the day after Mike Riley was announced at Nebraska in 2014. And I said on the podcast that night, he recorded it and said, hey, I'm going to bookmark this. And after we publish it, I'm going to save it. We're going to go back and find out. And now he likes to pull it out because I predicted that night this would be a disastrous hire, made no sense, had no recruiting base, brings nothing to the program. And I pointed out at the time, Mark, that even if Mike Riley worked, given his age, you were going to hire another coach in 5 or 6 years anyway. So it was a futile exercise what Nebraska did here. But they're in a no man's land. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games against Northwestern and Minnesota. Think about that, 500. So forget about competing with Iowa and Wisconsin, who are the 2 most successful programs in that division. They're 500 against Minnesota and Northwestern. I mean, it's a very humbling exercise, I think, for Nebraska. And what they need to bring in is somebody who has their own recruiting base, their own recruiting brand. Because of all the major tradition-rich programs, they probably are the toughest one to recruit to at this moment because of the conference they're in. They're too Midwest now for the Texas recruits they used to be able to get. They're not Midwest enough to go into Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan and compete with Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State. They are really in a no man's land. Their walk-on program wasn't what it was when we were kids. I think it's a tough job. And I think that if Scott Frost is given the choice between Florida and Nebraska, I believe he will choose Florida. I think the AD hire they made while Bill Moose is respected, he's pushing 70. So, if you're, and he's not a Nebraska guy. So if you're Scott Frost, that means you're essentially going to be asked to be the face of the entire athletic department while also building a program as the favorite son. And that's a big burden to carry. That's why I think he'll go to a school that has a more natural recruiting base if he's given the option. And then if that happens, I think that's a kick right to the Jimmy for Husker Nation. And I don't know what they do after that. I think what they need, Mark, I think they need a hook. And what I mean by that is if I were them, I'd go hire a triple option coach. And I really mean that. I bring somebody in so you can go back. I mean, all a triple option is it's not much different than the veer option out of the I formation that Tom Osborne ran. Just got one extra instead of a wing back. They're sitting in the backfield now. But I think they need that kind of hook where they can get a Tommy Frazier kind of recruit who maybe doesn't quite have the arm to be the spread quarterback at Florida State, but could go there and play. And I give them a hook, something that makes them a matchup problem week in and week out, because I just don't believe they have the recruiting base. As long as they remain in our league, they will not have the recruiting base to play man-up, man-ball week in and week out at an elite level. Maybe every few years they can cycle up and get there, but they cannot be the Nebraska that the Big Ten thought they were getting with the recruiting base they currently have, no matter who the head coach is.
So, Steve, you're basically suggesting that Nebraska become the Georgia Tech of the Big Ten. Yeah. And win 7 or 8 games a year and be happy with that and have a puncher's chance against Wisconsin and maybe cycle.
I think that's their road to being better than 7 or 8 wins, Mark. I think they're doing that now. I mean, this year they're not going to get to 7 or 8 wins, but they won 9 last year, just they were all insignificant wins. I think they've got enough there that they can be a 7 or 8 win team. But really, with the academic compromise the Big Ten made, bringing them in, you don't bring a school that has one of the lowest, if not the lowest, academic standing in your conference. You don't bring them in to win 7 games, brother. Okay, you bring them in because you think that gives you 4 of the top 7 or 8 programs in the history of the sport in your own conference. And I think that's Nebraska's quickest route to getting back to where they once were, or at least somewhere close to it, is to become unique, a hook, some kind of contrivance that makes them stand out, because right now they don't stand out at all.
It's funny, Steve, because I had somebody comment to one of my videos.
By the way, Georgia Tech, Paul Johnson's won ACC championships, been in BCS bowls. Georgia Tech's been a better program than Nebraska the last 10 years, and it hasn't even been close, Mark.
You don't think it's been close? I would have to run the numbers on there. I think it's been very close.
Yeah, I don't think it's been close. Nebraska has lost at least 4 games every season since 2003. At least 4 every year.
And Georgia Tech generally goes 7-5 or 8-4 every year. They did have the one Orange Bowl team a few years ago that beat Mississippi State.
A conference title. They've won division or 2 division titles.
Sure.
That's all they've won since 1999.
Yes, the 2 in the Big Ten, and they played for 2 near the end of their run in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Yes, they did.